Hello and welcome to our webinar today, QuickBooks Online Tips and Tricks for Small Business Owners, presented by KB Elevate. That's us. We're a division of Kraftberger LLP, Chartered Professional Accountants. So before we jump in here, I want to just talk a little bit about who we are. Maybe you know us, maybe you don't. So we are KB Elevate. So we're a division of Kraftberger CPAs. And Kraftberger is a mid-size accounting firm located in Markham. And we've been around for, just over 75 years, I believe. And our mission is really, I think, in keeping for our theme today, is to provide effective, timely, and reliable advice that you can use to make your business stronger. So that's effectively why we're doing this today. My name is Curtis Voisin. I lead the cloud accounting division at Kraftberger CPAs. And I'm so happy to be joined today by Ali Balch. She's an accounting technician with the firm. She's going to be the one that's looking after the chat and the Q&A. So if you have any of those questions, be sure to pop them in there. I'll get right to it. And what do we do? Well, first off, I guess we are proud partners with QuickBooks. It's our preferred accounting application that we use for all of the small businesses that we work with. And we provide full service bookkeeping and payroll solutions. And for some folks just need some help with getting the whole system and process set up and move them from, desktop or other like QuickBooks Desktop, Sage, or other legacy systems. For some folks, we provide sort of that extra check. So if you're managing the books yourself and you just want, hey, I want somebody else to take a look at this, we do that for a few folks. And we also do things like QuickBooks training. But what I like to think about our role is really problem solving. So in the area of accounting, there's no shortage of challenges or changes. And somehow that all needs to be translated into a process that works and gets reflected in your financial picture for your business. So we proudly serve small business owners. So we work with a lot of doctors, consultants, real estate developers. We kind of work across a variety of industries. So we've seen a lot. And it's what motivates us to do what we do. So I'm going to jump into how we go about submitting those questions. So you'll notice in your Zoom, there's a dialog box for Q&A. Send those questions in there. Ali will be all over it, and we'll make some time towards the end to go through those with you today. So our agenda, so we packed a lot into today, so I hope we get through everything. We're going to start off talking a little bit about why QuickBooks Online. Now, I know many of you are probably already using it, and that's the reason why you're here. But some of you may just be looking at coming from a desktop system. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk about which version is right for my business. So QuickBooks launched their advanced product, and it might be a good just conversation to kind of reflect and see if you're in the right version. We'll talk about some setup best practices, help you move through QuickBooks more quickly, and help you. Topic 4 is my personal favorite, mastering bank feeds. This is the most powerful area of QuickBooks, in my opinion. And when you get it right, when you make these small tweaks, man, you'll be able to fly through working in that area of the product. And if there's time, we'll get into some invoicing and receivables best practices and leave time for your questions. My personal goal here for you today, I want you to come away with at least one, I think there's more, but at least one tip or trick that's going to save you time in your day-to-day, and that's as good as money these days. And just to generally help you to feel more confident in your accounting processes. So that's my personal goal. I hope that we meet that, and that you'll be forthcoming with your feedback and helping us to understand if we met that goal for today. All right, jumping in. Why QuickBooks Online? So for me, and I think for a lot of the business owners in my team, we love the automated bank bank feeds. So now, connect QuickBooks to all of your business banking, credit card accounts, all that data flows through there automatically. The second piece is really around apps. So we'll talk a little bit more about apps.com, but QuickBooks connects with a lot of other core business applications that you may be using on a day-to-day. So things like your CRM, inventory, all that kind of stuff. It's accessible across devices, so you can open it on a browser and then generate an invoice from the QuickBooks mobile app or snap a photo of a receipt from the mobile app. So if you don't have the QuickBooks app, highly recommend you get that so you can enjoy that seamless experience throughout. And lastly, you can give access to other stakeholders in your business. So if you've got like an AR person, a salesperson, you can control their access to just customers. And I think better yet, you can invite your accountant or bookkeeper as a collaborator on your books. So they can share information in real time versus sending a data file in QuickBooks back and forth or Excel reports. Make it easy that everybody can jump in and get the information that they need to get. So this is this is a lot, but I'll unpack this. So there are 4 versions of QuickBooks Online now. And Easy Start is really designed, I think, for folks that have a business bank account and credit card account. All of your deposits, expenses, all that stuff is flowing through those accounts, and you just generally don't have any outstanding payables and things of that nature. So it's really comprehensive, and I think a good fit for sole proprietors and owner managed corps where you don't have multiple any more employees. Essentials, once you kind of add or you have a few employees, I think that this makes sense because you're going to get into some situations where you have some bills. And so I've really highlighted the things that I consider the big steps up. So if you want to be able to post a bill that you're going to pay in 30, 60, 90 days, you're going to need the Essentials version. And if you have folks in your business that you want to have access to QuickBooks but want to control their access, or maybe you've got multiple currencies, you're going to need to jump into the Essentials at minimum. The Plus version, the 2 big things there, I think, is or 3. The ability to track inventory. Although QuickBooks Online says it's got an inventory management module, it's a really lightweight inventory management system. So be careful when you kind of have expectations around that. The ability to create budgets, and then if you've got multiple divisions in your organization, like departments, and you want to be able to segregate income and expenses by those divisions or locations, you're going to need the Plus version. And lastly, the Advanced version it just has more. It's brand new, so we're still figuring it out, but I think it's a good fit for mid-sized businesses with an in-house accounting department. Got things like automated backup and rewind, lots of workflow related items for reminders and all that. So yeah, hopefully that helps to make sure that you're in the right version of the product. So we mentioned apps.com. So if you haven't done so already and you're using QuickBooks Online, I'd encourage you to head over there. Just take a quick look at what's available. Google any sort of apps, or search for any of the apps that you use in your business. I'll talk about a few that we know and love. The first being Dext. Now, QuickBooks Online has a built-in receipt capture app, and it's sufficient if you're not doing much in the way of volume. But we love Dext. It's a very robust receipt capture platform. So if you used to keeping that folder of receipts or shoebox and sending it over to your accountant, this platform makes that actionable. So you can snap photos, you can email in bills, and it does magic by pulling out all the details and plays really nicely with QuickBooks. So I'll stop there, but that could be its own webinar in the future. And Wagepoint. So these 2 apps are, in addition to QuickBooks, are part of what we call our core accounting tech stack. And Wagepoint is really great. It integrates really nicely with QuickBooks, and has an automated payroll option for your salaried employees. And we'll take care of things like your CRA source remittance payments, WSIB remittances, EHT, that kind of thing. And even has some integrated time tracking and paid employee leave tracking apps. So we have 50 or so folks that we've got using that platform, and it seems to be working out really, really well. Okay, so we're going to start first with the foundation, some setup best practices. So if you've have been using it for a while, you've probably not gone back to this area. So maybe good opportunity to look into it. So we're going to focus first on, in that top right navigation bar in QuickBooks, the gear icon is where you'll find everything setup related. And so if we click on the accountant settings, I want to talk first about this overlooked feature in QuickBooks, and that's a closing date. So the reason why this is of paramount importance is when you close off an HST quarter, let's say, or you have, your corporate year end is December 31st, or, if you're sole proprietor, December 31st, you've sent everything over to your year end accountant. They've gone ahead and filed everything with the CRA. Well, you want your books to match what your accountant has filed with the CRA. So in order to protect yourself from being tempted to make any changes, or for throwing, accidentally making an entry in a previously closed period, you're going to want to make sure that, hey, after you send over your year-end package to your accountant, set a closing date. The reason being is that now if I go to make an entry in, say, November 1st of 2021, well, QuickBooks is going to come up with this prompt and say, hey, this might impact the prior tax return that you've already filed. Do you want to continue? And of course, you're going to say, no, I'm not going to touch anything in a prior period. And so it's really there to protect you, because if you're not careful, or if you make lots of changes, that could snowball and create the whole other headache when you go to file your next year's tax return. So very, very important to enable or make use of this feature. Two other really quick items. We like the month-day format, so to make sure that you've got a format that works for you. And this second one, this sign me out if I'm inactive. The default is 1 hour. And so if you're doing some catch up or whatever, you just don't want QuickBooks to kick you out, especially if you get distracted and jump into something else. So we suggest changing this to 3 hours so that you don't get prompted to sign in again. QuickBooks payments. So this is a great feature. Again, only if you're using the invoicing facility in QuickBooks Online. So what this does, within a few clicks, you can set this up. So I think 5-10 minutes if you've got everything. And what's really nice about it is that gives you the ability to accept credit cards. And everybody wants to pay you by credit card because they get the points. And you can see here, it's not a cheap feature to extend to your clients. But you may find situations where it's appropriate, say if you're taking a deposit and you want to ease the friction of allowing your customers to pay, I would turn this feature on. It doesn't add a monthly fee. It's just a per transaction fee, which you could surcharge your client for, but you just want to be kind of careful in how you manage that. QuickBooks added this bank payments feature. I'm not sure what that's all about, but it's cheaper. It's about 1% per transaction. I think what it is it allows your customers to pay you kind of like an e-transfer, but it's integrated into the whole payments experience. So I think it's just a very nice customer experience, and it'll even mark the invoices being paid. So suggest turning that feature on just so you have it as an option. And then when you're creating the invoice, you can go ahead and disable that if you don't want to give your clients the convenient option to pay there. But this is what it's going to look like. Your customer gets an invoice, they'll have a nice pay now button, makes it really, really nice, and hopefully helps you get paid faster. Another setup related item Now this will take you into another area of QuickBooks Online, and this is in the sales tax center. So should know that you only enable this. This is off by default in QuickBooks, by the way. Only turn on this area of QuickBooks Online if your business is HST, QST, PST registered. So whatever jurisdiction you're registered in, just make sure to go ahead and set that up. And if you need help, definitely reach out to your bookkeeper or accounting advisor. This area of QuickBooks could evolve into its own webinar. So I'll just start very simply by mentioning that if you haven't done so already, this is sort of overlooked, and imagine your year-end accountant is looking at this. If you have meals and entertainment expenses, for most businesses, only 50% of the input tax credits on those expenses are eligible ITCs. So rather than doing an adjustment at year end or quarterly, whatever it is, you can actually come in here and set up a custom tax code that's tied directly to that meals and entertainment GL code. And I should mention, we're recording this webinar. We'll provide you with this as well as the PDF of the slides. So there's a link in here that shows you exactly how to set it up. Should take you only 5 minutes. And if you're going to do this, I would encourage you to do so at the start of, say, a new month or new quarter, just so that the adjustment is for a consistent time period. So just make sure, when you make that change, that you communicate that change to your accountant or bookkeeper. All right, moving on to the chart of accounts. So this area is important for a number of reasons. So one, it's all of the accounts in which your transactions are kind of grouped together. So your balance sheet and profit and loss statement accounts are all broken out from your chart of accounts. So it's important that it's meaningful to you and that it doesn't go overboard. So the first thing I recommend, just another quick setup related item, is to enable account numbers. Now, this is perhaps maybe a bit more for your accountant or bookkeeper than it is for anybody else, but you may find some value in it, and we'll go through what that looks like. So this is how to turn that feature on. And so when you turn that on, when you're in your chart of accounts, you'll see that you're now able to provide an account number that's tied to each of your accounts. Very simply, I have got a general nomenclature for how that should be coded. But if you have already filed a year-end with your accountant, ask for their trial balance and just match up your names and your account numbers to theirs. And you may find some value in this because, at any moment when you're allocating a transaction, you'll know, hey, 4,000 here, that's income. So you'll probably even start to remember the account codes, and that might even help you fly through a little bit more quickly. But I mention it here because it helps to ease the flow between yourself and your year-end accountant, and then back again when you get those adjusting journal entries. And the last thing I'll say about your chart of accounts, and this is just, a reflection on kind of what we've seen or how this seems to evolve over time. I would encourage you to keep it real simple. Don't create too many accounts. So I don't have a general rule of thumb for you here, but as an example, if you spend 50 or $100 a year, in postage, you mail some items off, there's no real benefit to you to really have that broken apart as like a postage account. You can probably be comfortable grouping that in with your office expenses. Again, depending on your business, there's some rules around what may or may not be material, but make it speak to you. You want to be able to look at your profit and loss statement and be able to discern where your money went. And at any point in time, you can always click on any of these numbers and drill down and get the detail. And if you need more detail, I'd encourage you, again, to keep the list very short. And you could use the QuickBooks tags feature, which we don't have time to get into today, or upgrade to the plus version and track by division, classes, or locations, and you can break out and get some more detail. I'd encourage you also to stay on top of your gross margin. So if say you are you sell widgets and your sales number is 3,500, your cost of goods are really what you paid for those goods that you sold. So making sure that these line up will kind of give you a sense of what your gross margin is on your sales before your operating expenses. So just a quick tip on how to read that, and maybe one of the ways that you want to rejig your profit and loss. And the last item here is to set up your default tax codes. So again, this is a little thing that it's overlooked, but it can really save you time. So if you've got your chart of accounts, you've numbered them, and you happen to know that, hey, all of my office expenses, or say 99% of them, 90% plus, they have HST on all of those items. Like I'm doing all my shopping at like Staples or whatever it is. You can set the default. So anytime you select an account, QuickBooks is automatically going to apply the appropriate tax code and back out the HST on that expense. So again, a little thing, another way you can use this for meals and entertainment, if you have that tax code set up here, you can make sure that that's linked there again. So when you select the meals and entertainment tax code, that the appropriate tax rate is applied there. So encourage you to take a look at that. All right, next, moving on to navigating best practices. So if you haven't done so already, I would highly encourage you to invest in getting a second monitor for two reasons. One, whether using QuickBooks or not, I found a study that suggests that your speed of working through items increases by an average of 42% with multiple monitors. So, and you can kind of think about this, if you need to open QuickBooks, minimize your email, open this report, you got to minimize tabs, and it can get really cumbersome. So I have three monitors personally. So highly encourage you to get that. And QuickBooks plays really nice with that. So if you're using Chrome or Edge or whatever browser you're using, you can right click on that tab and duplicate it. And then, if you're not using multiple monitors, you can still sort of stack them side by side, but you can be looking at the bank feed in QuickBooks, and then say you're working through your receivables. You can have your receivables report open on one screen, your invoices on another, and you can kind of work your way through it. So highly encourage you to use that, and just know that you can have as many windows open at once as you'd like, and that doesn't slow QuickBooks Online down. Bookmarks. So in using web apps, and this is for any web app. So if there's a web app like QuickBooks and you're going to the same area every time, so say you're in invoicing all the time, well, you can think about it. You go down, you click on customers, you click on invoices, or say you click on reports, you click on account. It takes 3 or 4 clicks to get where you're needing to go. So if you're in there a lot, I'd highly suggest you bookmark it. We use the search field a lot in QuickBooks, so bookmark the search. Again, just save you some time. And the good news is that if you've got multiple companies in QuickBooks Online, you can link them together, and no matter what company file you're in, you click on these links, it'll take you right to that section of QuickBooks, no matter which company file you're in. So again, it's just seconds add up to minutes, add up to hours. So these little changes can hopefully help you race through the application. So that's search field. So in the top right, if you click on it, there's a few advantages there. So the one, so if you've just entered a transaction or closed something down, you're like, what did I do? I don't think I did that right. You click on the magnifying glass, and what's cool about it, it's going to summarize your most recent transactions. So you can quickly go back and get that bill from Acme, or click on view more to see an expanded list and go back. So it makes it really quick to get back to where you were most recently. And the other thing is that this is really powerful. It works as, like a Google search. So it'll autocomplete. So rather than digging through QuickBooks to try and get to where you're trying to go, start typing in profit and loss. You can see all the profit loss related reports, and then you can click on it and again, bookmark it so that you've got it for easy access later on. So calculator. So any of you that use QuickBooks Online for any sort of data entry may not have known that any amount field in QuickBooks can be used as a calculator. So rather than having a calculator on your physical desktop or opening the calculator, you can just type in the amount here. So in this case, I'm adding a 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And once I hit the tab button, QuickBooks is automatically going to do the math there and add it up. So, it does things, multiplication, division, all that kind of stuff. So make use of that. That's available and should hopefully, again, save you some time. Cool. Well, I feel like we're still running through this, but we've arrived at my favorite part of QuickBooks Online, and that is the bank feeds. So if you're not familiar with the bank feeds aspect of QuickBooks Online, here's how to go about, like, really quickly. If you bank online, you can connect your account directly to QuickBooks so that there's a direct feed of all those transactions from your business bank and credit card accounts into QuickBooks so that you can allocate and move on. So the first time you'll see a screen like this, select banking and click connect. And quick comment, so there's hundreds, probably thousands of banking institutions that link in here directly, even a lot of credit unions. There's only one bank that I found that didn't integrate, and it was a pretty, it wasn't very commonly used. So let's say we're connecting RBC Express. We enter that in there. QuickBooks, when we enter the login credentials, is going to give us the ability to map this out. So I select my business checking account and my credit card account. And by the way, one suggestion, this is the preferred naming convention. We suggest the bank name and account type plus the last 4 digits. So in this case, say RBC Visa 1234. Makes it really clear which credit card you're working on, both to yourself as well as to your year-end accountant when they get in there and they look through it. And the first time you connect your bank to QuickBooks, it's going to ask you from how far back do you want to download data from. So in this case, we're selecting the beginning of the year. One word of caution here: if you're connecting the bank for the first time, or say you've got a new bank account, QuickBooks for bank and savings accounts will generally go back and download data for up to a year. But for your credit card accounts, it won't get information for more than 3 months. So not to worry though, there is a way to backfill that information. Usually you still might be able to get that information out of your bank account in some sort of an Excel file, Excel or CSV or QuickBooks file, and you'll be able to upload or backfill that information. So if your bank doesn't connect to QuickBooks, no problem. You can still make use of the bank feeds area of the product. Okay, so navigation. So again, like to talk about how we work before we actually do the work. One of the things that I'll talk to you first about is this smaller, less noticeable gear-related icon. So when we click on that, there's a number of additional information it shows us, or we can disable so that it reduces the clutter here. But two that I'm going to recommend that you turn on today are transaction grouping and showing the bank details. I'm going to show you why. After you turn that feature on, if I click on any one of these headings, whether it be date, bank detail, QuickBooks is going to try and group them together based on common elements here. So if you sort by date, it's going to group it by April, May, June, that kind of thing. If you sort by bank detail, it's going to cluster these transactions together. And why that's valuable is it allows you to treat transactions in batches. And actually, I'll also mention here that once we enabled the bank detail, it gave us a little bit more information here. So again, in the interest of saving you time, when you know that coffee place is a meals and entertainment expense, it makes it really easy to work in batches. So you're just going to go ahead and click on this update button, allocate that to meals and entertainment with the appropriate tax code, and then clear that one out of there. So those two features should hopefully allow you to work in batches with similar transactions, again, in the interest of saving you time. So another thing in terms of navigation, you may be wondering what these tabs are for. This for review, this categorized and excluded. So the for review, these are transactions that QuickBooks has downloaded from your bank, but not yet posted, meaning that those coffee place transactions, QuickBooks is like, hey, I've got this transaction. What do you want me to do with it? So until you actually go in here and add that transaction, nothing has been posted to your books. So if you run report, so once you allocate it, you'll start to see that on your profit and loss and balance sheet statements. Categorized. So these are items that have already been allocated. So if you allocated those coffee place transactions to meals and entertainment, click on this categories tab and you'll see it there. And then this excluded tab, I don't think you're ever really going to use this. If you've got corporate accounts set up, you're going to need to allocate every single transaction that comes through your business bank or credit card account. So if you exclude anything, then you're not going to be, it's not going to tie to your balance in the bank. So it's important that you capture that. But from time to time, you may notice that QuickBooks downloads a duplicate or there's something else strange. You may want to kick that transaction out of there, but don't recommend making a habit of putting items there. Okay, so now let's look at a quick example of when you would actually use this categorized tab. So you may find, hey, if I was racing through here and I accidentally allocated coffee place to an uncategorized expense account, I can click on categorized and find that transaction and quickly undo it. It's going to move that transaction back to my for review tab so that I can then select the appropriate account of where it should go. Next, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about working with shareholder transactions or personal transactions. So this is a similar process if you're a sole proprietor, but I'm generally going to speak about it in terms of how we see this being run with our corporate clients. So say, for example, this expense for Supplies Depot, this $35.88, it was a personal transaction. So the way to treat that is to allocate this to your shareholder loan account. Now, if you've got multiple shareholders, you want to be careful about allocating this to the correct account. So you want to be very, very careful about using this account. But if you accidentally pull out that card and spend corporate dollars, you need to make sure that that's allocated to your shareholder account, and then you may want to reimburse the business for that, or do so at your end, or whatever that may be. But that's how you go about treating that. Now, in the reverse situation, you've paid for something personally that the business owes you back for. So the first thing you're going to want to do is set up an owner cash bank account. So the balance of this should always be zero, effectively. The way that you're going to do this, so it's a QuickBooks, it looks like a $0 transaction. But what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and enter that expense. So say I spent $113 at this Office Depot. I'm going to capture the expense here. At the same time, I'm going to make a negative entry to my shareholder loan account. So that's basically going to capture the portion that the business owes me back personally for having paid for this on a personal card or cash. So that's the easiest way that we see to record that. And hopefully you got everything on those business accounts. Again, if you haven't done so already, have a separate bank and credit card account for all your business related expenses. But the odd situation does come up if you're waiting on a credit card or whatever that may be. So that's how to treat that. Matching. This relates. You can kind of look at this in a number of different ways, but I'll talk about two examples here. One, you're recording or managing your accounts receivable in QuickBooks. So you raise your invoices in QuickBooks, and you're recording your client payments in here. So when you mark that payment as being received, QuickBooks does a pretty good job of finding matches. So if you make an entry in QuickBooks telling it that you're paid $8,700 on April 22nd, well, QuickBooks is going to see similar amounts and similar time frames and say, hey, are these two a match? And why that's really important is to prevent any duplication. So this is really going to help mitigate anything before you get to the bank reconciliation step. But this should be really easy to do. Similarly, if you've got that bill, so say you've opened a bill in QuickBooks for Air Express, and now QuickBooks sees the money coming out. Well, QuickBooks is going to suggest, hey, I think these are a match. It's kind of asking, is this a payment of this bill? Of course, that this is the case, and so you're just going to click match. And that's going to remove that from payables and work towards agreeing with your bank reconciliation. And I think almost lastly, bank rules. So once you've kind of mastered the basics there, to really take it up to the next level, I'd encourage you to take some time, and as you're going through these items, start thinking about creating bank rules. So QuickBooks Online is leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of identify patterns in your transaction behavior. So if one day you come in here and allocate this to office expense, well, QuickBooks is going to change the rest of these two and say, hey, I think that these are all office expenses too. Is this correct? And that's pretty good, but you can kind of give yourself like an extra marker of confidence that this has been treated correctly. So if you know, hey, anytime I spend money at Supplies Depot, it's an office expense, create a rule. And I would do so if you know 100% of the time this is the case. You can think about it. Your meals and entertainment expenses, your office expenses, your gas, recurring transactions, bank fees, all of those items are perfect candidates for setting up bank rules, and I highly encourage you to do so right away. So the way to go about doing that, if you're treating this transaction, click on create a rule. And it's one screen, but I kind of see it in two steps. So the first is the conditions under which QuickBooks should apply a rule. So you can think about this. What has to be true in order for QuickBooks to do something for you? So in this case, we're going to name it Supplies Depot. It's money out of the bank, and we can, maybe this applies to multiple credit cards. Maybe this only applies to the bank account. We have flexibility around which accounts this can be applied to. And in this case, we're going to only apply this rule if both of these conditions are true. In this case, bank text. So we know that when it downloads from the bank, that Supplies Depot is what it sees from the bank. So QuickBooks will apply the appropriate treatment there. But I've went a step further here, and I said, hey, only do this if the amount is less than $1,000. And the reason for that is because you may be purchasing equipment from time to time, furniture, computers, assets with an estimated useful life. So, kind of a general threshold is approximately $1,000, where you want to look at, okay, maybe I should allocate this to an equipment asset account in QuickBooks, and then have your year-end accountant look at whether it makes sense to expense it or to amortize it. So I highly suggest I think this is one area where this is a pretty common scenario. So I'd encourage you to set up this rule. And this is just how QuickBooks is going to treat it. So we already know where it needs to go. It's an office expense with HST. And then I can add more detail. I will mention here, QuickBooks likes to make this the default, this auto add. And what that means is that the moment that QuickBooks downloads it from the bank, that if you have this feature enabled, that QuickBooks is automatically, once it sees the conditions are true, it's automatically going to post a transaction. So you don't have to touch that transaction at all, really. So only enable this if you're 110% sure. I think where this is relevant are things like bank fees. Again, you just have to have a really well-designed rules that it doesn't accidentally collect some other transaction. So yeah, be careful about enabling that feature. And lastly, when it comes to working through bank fees or feeds, rather, once you've cleared out all of those transactions for the month, for the quarter, for the year, and by the way, I would highly encourage you to get into the habit of making, if you're an owner manager, bookkeeping does get left to the wayside quite often. Schedule that time, make sure you're staying on top of this monthly or quarterly. You can forget about those transactions very quickly, and then it's becomes a lot more difficult to go back in time. But the last step, once you've cleared out all those transactions, everything's been allocated, well, you can go a step further. And this is just really to, as a marker of quality on your records, highly encourage you to reconcile your account. So you can reconcile any account in QuickBooks or any balance sheet related account in QuickBooks. But at minimum, you should be doing this for your bank and credit card accounts. So the way to do this, and this should take no time at all, really, if you've got the bank feeds connected in QuickBooks. All you're going to do, open up the reconcile function, open up your bank account, one monitor, looking at the bank statement. What you're really looking for is the closing balance as of a certain date. So in this case, for example, we're going to use April 30th, 2022. You can see my bank statement shows a balance of 48K. So we're going to plug that into our ending balance and also transcribe this closing balance date on here, and then click on Start Reconciling. And so again, this should take you really no time. Again, if you're using the bank feeds, the goal here is to have a $0 difference. Once you see that, you're generally good. You can just click Finish Now, and you've done the bank rec, hopefully in less than a couple seconds. But if there is a variance here, you'll want to diagnose why that is. So you may have posted a bill, or you might have duplicated an entry. So you'll be able to go through the bank statement and see what the outliers are. You know, basically, it's any items that don't show up in your bank, but that you've got an entry for here. So yeah, you'll want to make sure that that is a part of your regular accounting hygiene, I'll say. Awesome. That brings me to the end of working with bank feeds. So after you've done the bank rec, you can do your happy dance. And in fact, many of my team members will report that this is probably one of the more satisfying areas of the accounting, is just getting the bank to balance. So feel free to celebrate that. It's no small feat. Now we're getting up towards the end of where I want to be in order to. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to take some questions now, and if there's time, I'm going to jump into just a few items related to invoicing and receivables best practices management, because I realize not every business owner attending the session today has that use case for QuickBooks. So Ali, you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Cool. So do you have any questions that have been coming in for me?
I actually don't. We've had quite a quiet crowd today.
Okay.
Everyone seems to think you know what you're talking about and understanding, which is nice.
Okay. Well, I'm either terrified by that or I'm delighted by it. So I'm somewhere in between there. So maybe it makes sense here. Before, just in case anybody's dropping off, because I'm going to go into invoicing next. Highly encourage, if there's something here that you feel like, I need some help on this, reach out to us, cloud@kblop.ca. Call us, jump on our website. A couple things that we can help you out with: bookkeeping, setup, payroll, a few of the things that I mentioned off at the start. Want to make sure, no matter what, that you feel confident in your bookkeeping and payroll processes. And yeah, whatever we can do beyond that, we hope that you found this valuable. Cool. So Ali, feel free to interrupt me if there's some questions that start rolling in, but I'll jump into invoicing and receivables management.
Sounds good.
Cool. So jumping in. So if you are using QuickBooks Online to generate your invoices, and if you are using QuickBooks Online and not using this feature, highly encourage you to make that one of your next key priorities. There's lots of advantages beyond just saving yourself the trouble of entering information twice. You can stay on top of your accounts receivable rather than kind of chasing it. So the first thing I'll encourage you to do, again, is in the setup. So go into your product and services. And what you're going to do here, list out all of the items that you would invoice for. So in this case, the demo company that I've set up is Landscaping Hero. And they sell a lawn care package. So when they set that up, really all that matters is the name, perhaps the like the description detail. You can make it something that you can easily edit, like for X number of feet or whatever, just so you don't have to manually add in that information every time. What's really important to get right here is to select the appropriate income account. So you can see once I open that, QuickBooks will allow me to map this to an expense account or cost of good. There may be situations where that's correct, but if this is income for your business, make sure that that is tied to an income account that is relevant to your business. So if you've got multiple areas of your division or business that you want to track income for, make sure that the services that you sell tie to those income accounts, because when you open your profit and loss statement, all of the invoiced amounts are going to flow through to that particular area. And then make sure that you've got the appropriate sales tax if you're HST registered. Next, I'll jump into invoicing template. So this is a really cool feature of QuickBooks. So to get there, your custom form styles, there's like 5 different ways to get there, but this is one way that you can get there. Once you find your invoice template, you'll see a guide that looks like this. Design is pretty straightforward. I'm going to focus on this content related tab and just let you know that any of these blocks you can click on to edit, and it's going to expand and provide more information for you to edit here. Highly encourage you, make it incredibly easy for your clients to know how to pay you. So there's a few places that I would put that. Definitely include it in the footer of your invoice. So I've got a link to pay by credit card, e-transfers, payments here, checks payable to, if you have a pre-authorized debit agreement because you're debiting their account every month, make sure that all of those and all that information is ready and available there. Next, I encourage you to give some thought to how the emails come across. So your invoicing process is an extension of your customer experience. So it's really important to get the experience right. So I'd encourage you, again, make those payment terms incredibly clear so you can customize it here. And if you're not doing so, suggest that you have your invoices sent out directly from QuickBooks. There's 2 reasons. One, you can track when your customer opened it. So they say they didn't get it, you can see that, hey, they opened it, yesterday at 5 p.m. The other reason is you can set up things like automatic reminders. So it's hard to write those emails to collect payment. So QuickBooks can kind of do the do the legwork for you. And this is a sort of a bonus tip for you. If you'd like to, if you feel really confident in your service, you can include some links that go out with your invoices. Say, hey, happy with our service. Appreciate you if you'd rate us, referral bonus. You can build that in, and hopefully once you set it up, hopefully it's something there that gets you, 1 or 2 new clients, or helps to raise your social proof on things like Google Maps and all that. So yeah, so this is can also have a marketing impact for your business too once you get it right. And I think this is I think this is my last step here on the receivable side. Once you do have that invoice prepared in QuickBooks, you've sent it out to your client, and they've gone ahead, they've paid you. You've got a check in your hand, they've sent you an e-transfer, they paid you by credit card. If you're not using the integrated payment methods, which will record payments for you, it's really best practice to record those payments as you receive them. So to do that, simply open the invoice, click on receive payment, and you're just going to indicate, hey, I received that on this date by e-transfer and I received it to the bank. And that's really the end of it. When you go to work through your bank feed, you'll see that 565 to exactly line up when you actually saw that deposit hit the bank. So highly recommend that you stay on top of this. Don't leave this because it can get messy in a hurry. Cool. Ellie, any more questions for me?
We actually did have one question. Can we add multiple bank accounts on QuickBooks Online?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can. The most that I've seen somebody add is about 30 bank accounts. That's a pretty unique use case. But yeah, you can have, I think, as many as you like. And the other thing to note, a lot of folks that we talk to end up start going into business abroad, or they get some US customers, so they open up a US account. When you do that, you might want to look at moving up to the Essentials version. And the reason being is that you want to make sure that when you're setting up the bank in QuickBooks, that you select the appropriate currency that bank account is transacting in. By default, QuickBooks thinks that all of your accounts are being reflected in Canadian dollars. So you want to make sure that that is being managed correctly, because you can't change it after it's set up easily. Cool. Is that just the only one?
That is our only question, yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We want to keep the ball rolling on this. So if you don't mind, would love to hear from you after this. So if you want to drop this in the chat, here's some possible topics for our next webinar. So we can do a deeper dive on invoicing and accounts receivable management. We can go through bills and accounts payable management, maybe look at some of the apps. Say you're really spinning your wheels with sales tax and HST. We can go into that. Or maybe you just want some help on, going through reportings, how to understand your reports, how to build custom reports. We can do something there. And then again, maybe a deeper dive on apps.com, apps like Wagepoint and Dext. So if you have topics like that, just simply throw a number in the chat. We'll kind of consider that your vote. And yeah, we look forward to continuing the conversation. So again, if there's any other questions that you would rather speak to us directly on, please feel free to email us right away. I'd love to chat with you and see how we can continue the conversation from here.